How many hours do you think that you have obsessed over the game of chess?
Wow, that's a tough question.
How many games could you play at one time, whether online or in person?
It's easy. You can play maybe even 1,000 games.
Do you share tips and tricks and secrets with other top players, or is it very kind of taboo? You obviously are Ukrainian. How do you think about the Russian invasion of Ukraine? And as you speak to people in Ukraine, what are they telling you about the actual situation on the ground?
To say it's heartbreaking for me to see what happens, it's just the least I can say.
All right, guys, bang, bang. I'm very much looking forward to this conversation. Not every day that I get to talk to a chess grandmaster. And I thought a great place to start is how many hours do you think that you have obsessed over the game of chess to actually reach the level of expertise that you now have?
Wow, that's a tough question. Really, I've never counted those hours. Maybe I will go a little sidewise. I played tennis a little, but I was so bad in it also. But I just remember that my coach, he said that to master the game, you probably need to make 1 million hits. And that just, a round number just to say like, okay, hey, you can claim that you know how to play tennis if you made 1 million hits. But in chess, it's really difficult to say how much time it takes for a person to become a grandmaster. Years-wise, well, it took me since I began when I was 8, and I became a grandmaster when I was 22. So you can count like 14 years.
Yeah. How many hours do you think you were playing per day between like ages like 8 and 15? So kind of when you were younger and you didn't have lots of other life responsibilities, like how many hours would you play?
Well, not many, to be honest. So for me, it took like maybe like 2-3 hours a day, and that was sufficiently enough. I would say that more important here is intensity with which you do this. So it's not about like regularly training, but rather to successfully play in the tournaments, to constantly improve yourself. And in terms of chess, it's really maybe unique sport in the sense that you really don't need to practice it every day to keep up the form. It's pretty much okay not to play, let's say, for 3 months and then quickly pick up the game in a couple of days.
Yeah. How much better are grandmasters than like the top players, right? So for the people who actually are a grandmaster versus everyone else, is it an analogy that you could use to explain to people just how much better at chess you are than the average player?
Also, there is no unique measurement, so it's really difficult to compare. But the difference is obvious if you put a grandmaster versus some random player. Definitely we would see the difference in how the game evolves. And probably it's easier to make a comparison with some spectacular sports like let's pick tennis again. So when you see like how Federer plays, right, or Nadal or Djokovic, definitely their level is way better even than many professionals.
Mm-hmm.
So let's say also it's difficult to compare because in tennis you don't see those top guys encounter amateurs, right? So you don't see this often. In chess, it is way more common because in any regular tournament and in open tournaments where you have like around 600 players, it can be the situation that you have, let's say, like 10, 20 grandmasters and pretty much everybody else, ranging from the beginners to people of international master level, people who are experienced players who played, let's say, 10, 20 years, 30. But really, the difference is really subtle from the outsider point of view. So if you never watched chess, for you, it would be difficult to say, like, why the guy is the grandmaster, why he plays better. But yeah, probably it's something that you would experience once you see it. Maybe I just can recall a recent like kind of exhibition games, just friendly games with my teammates from work, and they really were amazed, and I was humbled to hear a lot of saying that it's really amazing to see how you play chess, because our thought process is very different from what we see how you play, because they just see that for me it's effortlessly to bake a good move, and for them they just don't understand how it happens that fast. And the answer is pretty simple, right? Because once you've played it for many years, it's quite easy for you to do it, right? So just imagine, like, let's say you learn some new language, and for you it would take some time even to memorize some words, right? And then it takes some time to recall them. But for a person who speaks, this language for all their lives, it's quite easy.
So one of the pieces that I've always wondered is like for a grandmaster, how much of it is memorization of opening moves and kind of a lot of the muscle memory just comes from I've played so many games, I've seen this already, I know how to handle that situation versus no, actually there is kind of a new computation that is occurring every single time you're playing a game.
Well, luckily it's both. So definitely memorization, it takes a lot of part in professional chess and also in amateur chess, especially nowadays when computers are extremely strong and the theory of openings, it evolved tremendously. I would say over the past 10, 20 years when computers became really strong. That's why in professional chess, definitely memorization, it's a very big part of the battle. But luckily, it's not all. So you cannot win just by memorizing the lines, because definitely at some point of the game, it turns the point where you need to work yourself. And if you don't have the necessary skills, if you don't have experience and understanding of what to do in the position, then it wouldn't work. And again, luckily, in chess, those occasions they're pretty much in every game. So your preparation for the game, of course, it takes a lot of hours because you need to memorize a lot of stuff. You normally try to predict what your opponent would do, and you just try to memorize the lines that you've already seen probably, or you try to prepare something new that you've never played. But for this specific opponent, you need to come up with something new. But nevertheless, once you get into the game and you begin playing by your plan, then you see suddenly your opponent just changes his mind, or probably they just decided to play something that you just didn't take into account, and then you need to begin your own thought process, and that's why luckily it just accommodates both styles. So there are players who really they don't memorize anything, so they just play by intuition, and they prefer to try to avoid their opponent's preparations, and that's also sufficiently fine for amateur chess. But of course, in the professional world, if we talk about top guys, it wouldn't work. So you need to combine both. You need to be prepared with memory, psychologically, also emotionally. You need to be a really good chess player in many ways.
How much of the game in person is psychological? Can you psych out your opponent, not necessarily with the moves on the actual board, but are there things that you see in competition where there's almost a game off of the board that's happening?
Oh yeah, certainly. It's always there, and chess is extremely psychological game. And of course, if we talk about pandemic and online chess that became popular over the past few years, things changed a little, because when you sit over the board and you see your opponent, you see her or his face, and you understand that what kind of thoughts are inside of the person, and that really helps you in some way, so you can be aggressive in terms of some moves. Actually, you asked about move wise or not move wise. Actually, over the board, it also makes sense. Sometimes you can bluff. You can do not really the best move, but the move that would be the most unpleasant for your opponent, or maybe unexpected. Off the board, it also matters, but ultimately, I would say, just personally on my feeling, for my career, it didn't matter that much, because also chess players, they like to focus on the game and on the essence and on the board, rather than try to outplay opponents off the board.
Yeah. How many games could you play at one time, whether online or in person? Is there a number that you feel really comfortable? 4 games, 8 games, 12 games? How do you think about that?
Well, I've played simuls in my career, of course, and over the board, I think it was 25 kids whom I played at once, which is reasonable number. I definitely, I'm not sure there is a limit, so I think I would easily play 50, 100. It doesn't really matter. What matters is timing and those kind of things. And of course, the level of the opponents, it matters a lot. Because when you play kids who just began playing, then it's easy. You can play maybe even 1,000 games. But I played kids who are not new, so they played already 3, 4, 5 years, and they're quite tough to beat. But still, I remember the simul, I managed to beat all of them. And normally in simuls, that's how I do it. I just beat everyone. I'm merciless in this sense because I think that you learn a lot from those simuls. I also remember myself as a kid, and I played those simuls against grandmasters, and I enjoyed them a lot. Though I also lost myself, but that's my approach. That once you lose, you can learn from your mistakes, and that's the biggest source of your improvement. Online wise, I think I played like around 20 boards and 20 games, and that's also just adequate number. And I think it just depends on the number of people who would like to encounter you in the game.
Yeah, it sounds insane when you say that you could play 100 simultaneous games. But to your point, if you're simply just concentrating on the board that you're looking at in that moment, and you're playing somebody who has lesser skill than you, then there's advantages that you obviously get. Are there certain things outside of just playing chess for hours, per day that you can attribute to actually getting better and eventually reaching Grandmaster?
Oh, absolutely. Actually, playing is not the only source. Mostly it's reading books, and chess literature is extremely prolific. We have some say that actually chess literature is the biggest among any kind of literature, which is difficult to really comprehend. I mean, in sense of, let's say, science. So books in physics, if you count the total books that the humanity produced over the years, it would be surprising to discover that actually chess books are way more by the numbers, by the just rough count of how many books were produced. So really, there is a lot of literature, and of course, to that training camps, it's extremely important to have coaches, people who would tell you like what you're doing right, what you're doing wrong on every stage of your career. And even professional guys, they do have coaches. Though, like, let's say if we talk about the very best, the world champion Magnus Carlsen, he has a lot of people who help him in preparation, in psychology, and many other aspects. So it's literally like as in any other sport, you see that you see a professional player playing, but at the same time, behind the scenes, there are just enormous team of people who support this performance.
Do you share tips and tricks and secrets with other top players, or is it very kind of taboo? And if you're a good chess player, you don't want others to know all your secrets?
To some extent, of course. If you follow chess, you would immediately see that normally chess players, they don't want to elaborate a lot on their preparation and say like, hey, okay, this is something that was prepared a long time ago, or this was my full thought process during the game. Normally we see, there are interviews and commentaries after the game where, when players, they share their thoughts, but they do not sincere 100%. That's for sure. And of course, there are some tips and tricks that every chess player uses. And normally, it's something that we just get used to. We do not share it unless with our teammates and our coaches. For example, if it's a team competition, definitely we can exchange of ideas. Let's say to play against some opponents, what are their weaknesses and those kind of things. Or in terms of opening preparation, that's also important to kind of discuss it in teams. Definitely, it's the famous proverb that one head is good, but two heads are always better.
When I think about chess today, I would put myself very much in the amateur category, but I'm fascinated by aspects of the game, including kind of machines. I'm interested in the kind of global nature of the game and how chess, people who have mastered the game of chess, think outside of chess itself and kind of what it teaches you from a kind of logic standpoint. If we think of machines, two of the areas that I find absolutely fascinating is one, the rise of artificial intelligence or machine learning. And so now we have humans competing against computers. And if, somebody has a mobile app on their phone and they're playing against kind of a low grade computer, if you're good at chess, you can pretty much set the difficulty level. You can beat it over and over and over again. But what I've started to see now is that there are a number of models or machines that are defeating grandmasters and people who are very, very good at chess. And so how do you think about this introduction of kind of more sophisticated computers into the game of chess? Is it good? Is it bad? Do you seek them out to play them? Do you get frustrated? Like, how do you think about it? This episode is brought to you by Athletic Greens. I drink AG1 by Athletic Greens every single day. I started it out a couple of years ago, and I liked it so much that I even became an investor in the business. Every single day, rather than take a bunch of pills for vitamins and minerals, I simply take 1 scoop of AG1 in a glass of water. It gives me 75 vitamins, minerals, probiotics, superfoods, and adaptogens. I really, really like it because it's so simple. If you go and you sign up at athleticgreens.com/pomp today, they will give you 1 year of immune-supporting vitamin D for free, and they will also give you 5 free travel packages. Go to athleticgreens.com/pomp today to get started. Stop taking all those vitamin and mineral pills and just take 1 scoop of AG1. athleticgreens.com/pomp. Go check them out today.
Well, I frankly have mixed feelings because, I have my phone and well, I'm not sure if you can see it, but anyway, it's really awful feeling when you just cannot beat your phone. And actually, I was lucky that I raised it at the times when computers were not that strong. And back in that days, we didn't even have smartphones, so there was no even question whether you can beat a cell phone or not. There was a famous story when Garry Kasparov was first beat by a machine back in the end of 90s. He lost to Deep Blue, and it was quite a big deal at that time because arguably it was a turning point in chess history when a machine really beat human. Now, of course, we see a tremendous progress of computers, and of course, machine learning techniques involved in that. It's really something amazing. When AlphaZero, which is arguably also the best chess engine ever, based on machine learning algorithms, once it kind of released, I really couldn't believe it happens, because I thought it's some kind of fake or scam, because the performance of AlphaZero was so much better than traditional engines that we have in chess. That really also it was kind of a revolution in the game. But nowadays, indeed, we as humans we just cannot compete with computers. It's like literally like trying to run a 100-meter race against a supercar, because the computational abilities of computers these days, they're enormous, and also the algorithms of evaluation of positions and how to approach chess, it's very different in terms of technologies these days. That's why computer preparation nowadays it weighs way more than it was, let's say, 10 years, 15 years ago. Not saying like 25 years ago, or maybe like let's if we talk about before computer era, 50, 70 years ago, which arguably was also a golden era of chess, when people really they kind of competed over the board. Now we definitely can say that modern chess players, that they not only compete over the board, but they also compete in their home labs, when they have a lot of assistants, they have a lot of computers, various approaches to positions, to openings, and there's also a question who has the strongest computer. Though again, as I already mentioned, luckily it's the question who is a better chess player. Luckily, it's not only about who has better home preparation and who has a stronger computer. So still, you can beat the guy with the strongest preparation just because you're more talented, and that's really cool. But just getting back to your question, how I really feel about it, and how it really affected the kind of the approach to chess. Really, in a way, it feels bad when you get into trap. When you just play with a kid who really just put everything in the computer back home, and you cannot outplay them right from the start just because your preparation is no longer better. Because back in the times, becoming a grandmaster, it takes to reading a lot of books, and you're very knowledgeable in openings. Now there's no such advantage exist. Literally anyone can just open their computer, put the chess engine on, and they're going to be experts as you are. So really, there is no need to have access to grandmasters to get some sense of the position. These days, computers, they suggest literally better moves and solutions compared to humans, and that's why it became very different. Though still, in no way it means that chess is in deep trouble and we're just ending up seeing computers battling themselves. Not at all. Still, we're running at the same 100 meters, but among humans, not with supercars.
Do you think that computers will just play each other? Like, is there a time where, whether it's tournaments or for just entertainment purposes or whatever, like we'll just see computers competing against computers and humans will just be spectators?
Well, actually, it's already there. Actually, you probably were not aware of this, but there are tournaments between computers, and there are a lot of competitions. Though, I myself also, I must confess that I don't follow them because it's quite boring when you see normal chess, especially for me as a kind of semi-professional chess player. It's really a lot of pleasure to watch how people play chess. But for me, there is little pleasure to see how machines try to beat each other. Of course, I occasionally come across the games and I see like how they play and how they approach positions, approach ideas, but it's really completely different field. And but there are tournaments, and I'm not sure when they began, but I would say that they began as long as chess engines were released. So let's say, just if you put some timestamp, beginning of 2000s, that's probably the time when those tournaments among chess computers they began, and they keep on competing in nowadays. And that's how we discovered that also machine learning based computers, they're stronger than traditional engines. But of course, it also requires to kind of adjust the computers in terms of computational power, because apparently if you have more cores, if you have let's say as we say, like more ferment to that, then the computer would be better.
When you think about the rise of these chess engines, how prevalent is cheating? I'm assuming online there's lots of quote unquote cheating, depending on how you want to characterize that in tournaments or whatever. But does that also spill over into kind of physical tournaments as well, in-person tournaments? Or how do you think about cheating in the chess world right now?
Oh yeah, it's actually it's a big topic. It's a big topic, and a lot of debates in the chess world around it, because really there is a great fear of cheating simply because it became so easy. And again, it's just as easy as just having a phone, right? So because you know that the phone plays better than you, and you literally can improve your game just looking at the phone, right? And that's why cheating it became widely available, and that's why also these days in the tournaments it's really a must for the organizers to like make sure that all the anti-cheating measures they're in place. And just a day ago it was a huge scandal, and it's still a scandal. We're kind of amid of this chess drama, as we call it, that world champion Magnus Carlsen, he withdrew from the tournament, which happened the first time in his career. And supposedly it is related to some suspicions that the guy in the tournament who actually beat Magnus just a day before Magnus withdrew, that he cheated. Though there is no any direct evidence as far as I know, and that's a big problem indeed, and that's a huge debate what to do in future, because if we admit that it's so easy to cheat and perform way better than you are, then difficult to say that we again compete on the track field, not against supercars. But also there is a problem that in a way it became a witch hunt, because also people who apparently they do not cheat, but they perform extremely strong for various reasons. And of course, if we talk about young players, it's really possible to gain strength quite quickly, as in any other sport, right? You see like a 14-year-old kid just doesn't know how to play, I don't know, let's say football. but then in 2 years it's a superstar of NFL, right? So that's quite common. So in chess, it's exactly the same. And that's why we see that youngsters, they rise quite fast. And then, of course, since we know that in our computer era, some miracles, they might happen, not because you're a talented player and not because you put a lot of effort in the game, but just simply because you found a way to cheat.
Mm-hmm.
Regarding online tournaments, it's even worse because when we play back at home, it's really difficult to prevent people from cheating. Though, of course, in professional chess world, we know that we don't cheat. For example, I myself, when I play another grandmaster in an official tournament, let's say it was a students' league, I know that we don't cheat because it's kind of also professional ethics. We were raised in completely different mentality, and it's just simply not acceptable to cheat. Because also for me, like let's say if I talk about myself personally, it's a really red line. So once I begin cheating, it means that I'm not a chess player anymore. Because when I play chess, I enjoy not only beating the opponent, but I enjoy making the best move and finding it myself and being proud of myself performing well in chess. So imagine let's say let's pick tennis, right? So if you play and beat Rafael Nadal, then you can be proud of yourself. But would you be proud in the same way if you cheated, if you used some doping or medicine or did something unacceptable? It would be completely different feeling. So, and in terms of getting enjoyment from the game, it's really not acceptable to cross this line.
When you think about cheating, a lot of people will talk about the chess engines. What about things that people ingest? So, some people would argue, you drank coffee, I didn't, you can focus better, or you have better concentration. I don't think most people would say that's cheating, right? That would just be, hey, you drank some coffee before the match. But are there instances in chess or things that are top of mind right now, whether it's Adderall or other types of things that people could be taking and ingesting to actually give them an advantage in playing?
That's actually an excellent question, because there was also a lot of debates around that pretty much all the time. And the answer is quite simple, that actually there is no kind of prohibited substances, or that there is nothing that is not acceptable. So it's not like in athletics where you see that just some injections, they're just not accepted because it's a violation of laws, and then WADA just would come after you. In chess, there is no such thing, and it's up to you. You can drink like 10 cups of coffee, and still it's not clear. Like, first of all, why it happens, because it's not clear how it affects your brain. Definitely we know that, for example, coffee is a big stimulator, right? But at the same time, it's not clear how it really helps to perform over the board. And for some people, it really adds up to their strengths. For some others, it might not. And even scientifically, there is no direct answer if, let's say, eating something during a game, it would boost your performance or not. That's why, apart from really using technologies and computer cheating, there is no such way to cheat in any other way. Let's say by drinking some liquid. Well, we see that normally it's the accepted kind of perception of that it wouldn't help.
Yeah, it's crazy to think about. I've got a friend, Ivo Marinov, who is one of the top players in the world at 1 minute Fischer chess. And when I told him that I was going to speak with you, he sent me a quote from Bobby Fischer, who basically was talking about the invention of Fischer chess. And for those that don't know, it's basically the board starts out with the pieces scattered in a random formation. And then if you play 1 minute, it obviously adds the pressure of the time. How do you think about some of these other chess games that have been invented over time, either to cut down on memorization or cut down on specific advantages that people have? Is it something that you enjoy playing? Do you just stick to kind of more classical chess? How do you think about these games? Today's episode is brought to you by FTX US. They're a safe, regulated way to buy Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies. They've got very cheap fees, sometimes as much as 85% cheaper than their competitors. There's also no minimum fees, there's no withdrawal fees, or any other hidden fees. Ultimately, FTX US is trying to make it dead simple for you to buy Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies. They also now have digital stock trading as well, with no transaction fees and no payment for order flow. All you have to do is go download the FTX app today from the App Store and use code POMP, and you'll get some money back every single time you trade $10 or more. Again, go download the FTX app today, use code POMP, and every time you trade $10 or more, they'll go ahead and they'll give you some crypto back. The more you trade, the more you earn. Download the FTX app today.
I personally myself, I will begin with the second part. I myself prefer the classical chess. Though I very much respect Fischer random chess, I also enjoy playing it, though of course I don't play it as much as classical game. But to add to that, I would also say that 1 minute bullet game, it's also a completely different universe of chess. And I would say in general that I see that we have really different variations of chess, and playing like 1 minute online, it's, in my understanding, it's really not a classical chess, because I was raised as a chess player under completely different circumstances. When you have a chess position and your goal is to find the best move, find the best plan, and you're normally not restricted in time. So your goal is not to find the best move in 5 seconds. And why I'm saying this, because some positions in chess, they're as difficult as for finding the solution. You might need like at least 15 minutes. And back in the old days, people trained, for some positions, puzzles, you might spend even hours trying to find the solution. And that's really kind of also another way to enjoy chess, when you really literally spend hours and hours trying to analyze one position and trying to find the solution, and you still cannot find it. So it's like puzzles for mathematicians. Also, they, in a way, they're similar, but with different approaches. So, but back to questions with other types of chess, I do respect that chess evolves, and I do respect bullet chess, though I'm not personally myself, I'm not a fan of it. And 1 minute Fischer random, frankly, I haven't seen it, so I probably need to spend some time to see it, because I'm pretty sure it's amazing. Since Fischer random, indeed, since the position is not trivial, and you're seeing it for the first time, right from the opening, right from the beginning of the game, you need to approach it very differently. And for that, you absolutely have to have some time on the clocks to just get into position. And for example, personally for me, it would take definitely more than 1 minute just to realize, okay, where the pieces are, and what would be the best setup, how to begin the game. But hearing that people can play an entire game in 1 minute with Fischer random, it's really amazing. But definitely it's not a surprise for me, and I also appreciate seeing people do this.
I refrain from ever playing with him, because I couldn't tell you where the pieces are in 1 minute, just like you. So it is quite impressive. Talk to me about the International Chess Federation. Obviously the elections recently happened. You were running for president. Talk a little bit just about that organization, the current leadership, and why you had chosen to run.
Yes, this decision to run for myself, it came very unexpectedly. This idea just came to my mind around end of April, around the time when the current incumbent president, Arkady Dvorkovich, he declared that he wants to get reelected. And for me, it was completely insane. And it still is. It's still terrible to see that the current leadership of International Chess Federation. And it's actually a long story. And for the background, actually, that there were always perception that chess is kind of a Soviet game. Why it happened? Because apparently Soviet Union was dominating chess for many years, since, like, let's say, 1950s. And what happened was International Chess Federation in 1995. We got elections where Kirsan Olymzhinov, who is a Russian politician, he won the elections. He was not from the chess world, so he came unexpectedly to kind of rescue the chess world after the crisis that happened after 13 years of presidency of Florencio Campomanes. who arguably was a KGB spy or something like a KGB agent actually. And for example, Garry Kasparov, who is probably one of the most famous chess player of our generation, like many generations actually, he claimed that international chess organizations, in a way, it's under control of KGB, and it has been like that at least since 1982 when Pompliano was first elected. So the story evolved that in '95, when Ilumzhinov became the president, he put some money into FIDE. He's a businessman, and in a way, he kind of rescued organization. That's kind of also the perception. But still, there were a lot of scandals and all kind of bad things. And eventually, it turned out that Ilumzhinov, he has been the president until 2018. So for 23 years, we had a Russian politician running the organization. And Ilumzhinov, he was actually famous for three things. One of them that he, according to himself, he was abducted by aliens, which is pretty cool to have, the main representative of the chess world who is abducted by aliens. Then he was famous for his visits with and meetings with all the best people in our world, like Muammar Gaddafi, Saddam Hussein, Bashar Assad, and those kind of things. And what I'm trying to say that apparently the Chess Federation was not about chess only, which of course it's a huge shame. So Chess Federation for many years it was more about politics, and it was an instrument of Russian politics for those years, and unfortunately it still is. And finally in 2015, Ilumzhinov got sanctioned by U.S. Treasury for his ties to Syrian government and Syrian banks, and eventually he actually tried to get reelected in 2018, and that was his intention. And what is really unfortunate about it that the system is built in the way that it's really almost impossible to beat the incumbent president. And however, the incumbent, as it was in the case of Ilumzhinov, he easily won all the elections. For example, 2006, we had a really great competition. Very well-known chess organizer Bessel Kok from Netherlands. He competed with Ilumzhinov, and of course, all the chess world, and especially Western chess world, we had high hopes that finally the federation will become modern, democratic, and progressive. But guess what? Ilumzhinov won just easily back in the days. Then in 2014, Garry Kasparov himself, he ran against Ilumzhinov, and he put a lot of resources and efforts to become a president, and yet he lost also quite convincingly, simply because it's really not possible to kind of beat this corrupted system. Because whoever is the president, Ilumzhinov had all the possibilities to travel around the world and talk to delegates, federations, and eventually he had everything under control. So what happened in 2018? Arkady Dvorkovich, who is a Russian politician, who has extremely prominent career in Kremlin. He's been for many years closest aide to Putin himself, to Dmitry Medvedev when he was president. So Dvorkovich, he was deputy prime minister for 6 years. He was advisor to the president also for many years. And you can imagine in 2018, the guy who has little to do with chess, despite his father, he was an international chess arbiter. But that's the only connection that Dvorkovich has to the chess world. So the guy, just 3 months before the elections, he comes in and says like, oh yeah, I would like to run for FIDE presidency, and I would be a good FIDE president. And at the same time, Ilumzhinov, he withdraws from the elections. He declares full support to Dvorkovich. And why it all happens? Just simply because Dvorkovich has enormous support of Russian government, financial support, political support, and all kind of those things. And eventually Dvorkovich won those elections in 2018. And now 2022, the elections that we had just 1 month ago, in April, I just realized that this time we're just on the edge of not having elections at all. Because really nobody wants to contest this, because also many people just understand that it's just hopeless. You cannot beat such machine, especially when, again, the federation is fully under political control of Russia. Moreover, of course, what added spices to that the situation is completely different from what it was in 2018 or 2006, 2014, when, again, we were talking about chess, but now we're Probably not the only one. I think in boxing, it's in a way it's a similar situation in boxing federation, that we're a sports federation that is run by a Russian politician. And of course, it's not only a big shame for us as chess players, as chess world, to have such representation, but also from the practical point of view, it's quite difficult to attract any sponsors. So if we say that the International Chess Federation, the main goal of it is to globally promote chess, how on earth we can do that if no sponsors would like to sign any contracts, merely because they know that for themselves being in any way associated with Russian politics. And now we see what Russian politics actually means. It's not only terror inside the country, now they're just bringing terror outside of their country for actually many years. And this full-scale invasion in Ukraine is just which happened in February. It's just another round of this external aggression of Russia. And from practical point of view for us as a chess world to have Dvorkovich, who has close ties to Kremlin, and say that and pretend that nothing happens, and we still can talk about chess, not about politics. It was quite, difficult to even think of that, and that's why it drove my decision to enter the competition myself and say like, okay, hey, if nobody in the world really wants to say the right things and compete against this system, then I would do this, and that's how I ended up in these elections. And I'm really, proud of my efforts, and I'm really happy that so many people they lended support. Because also, what happens in the chess world, many understand that things are not going the right way, though not many are willing to do anything because they just see that it's hopeless. So we just got used to being run by Russian politicians, and it's been for 23 years with Zelenskyy, and now it's after 4 years of Dvorkovich, we were saying like, okay, we have like another 4 years of Russian politicians being in the office, and we pretend that nothing happened, which is, of course, at least disappointing, if to say the least.
Yeah. One of the things that makes this an even more, I think, kind of sensitive topic for you is you obviously are Ukrainian, and Russia's invasion of Ukraine, while not directly related to anything in the chess world, you're bringing up a number of things where it may not be as black and white as is it related, is it not? How do you think about the Russian invasion of Ukraine? And as you speak to people in Ukraine, who I'm assuming you still have family and friends there, what are they telling you about the actual situation on the ground?
Oh, well, it's also it's a very large topic, and of course, I do have a lot of relatives there, friends, pretty much all my life in Ukraine, and though I live in US for the past 7 years, still I'm very much Ukrainian, and it's just to say it's heartbreaking for me to see what happens. It's just the least I can say. Of course, I'm very much outraged. It's really not kind of imaginable to see that in 21st century one country just can declare that another one doesn't exist, and it's kind of artificial kind of nation or something, this nonsense that Putin tries to, and Russian propaganda tries to put in justification of what they do. It's really shocking to see. And I think my feelings, of course, they're more sensitive, and of course, I see things differently. But at least I how to say, well, to me, it's good to see that we have a lot of support. It's really amazing to see that we are not there by ourselves in this battle. I see that literally all the same people in the world, they understand that it's not right. Really, we would prefer to talk about chess, about I don't know, politics, sports, finances, economics, culture, those kind of things, but not talking about war and suffering of people. And what Russia actually does these days, just a complete horror, because it's really difficult to put other things out of context, including chess as well. And of course, I do not kind of hide this, that my biggest motivation to run for the presidency, it was also driven by the fact that I just couldn't stand the idea that we're still okay to have Russian politicians and we're still okay to pretend that nothing happened. Because really we see that, why Russia needs it, why it's important for them to be part of the civilized world, to say like, okay, hey guys, we're in the chess, we're in culture and politics, we're like having some negotiations, talks, we play sports, but at the same time we can freely invade other countries and make just really terroristic attacks for no reason. And that's what Russia keeps on doing all this 6 months of this invasion. They're not doing like as they claim that it's a special military operation against some Nazis. It's just all complete nonsense. What they do, they just target civilian objects. So many people are dying for no reason, including actually Russian soldiers. And it seems that for Russians it's acceptable. They say like, oh, okay, yeah, we just keep on, thinking of other things like, playing chess or something. So yeah, but just getting back to your question, of course, all what happens, it's a huge shock, and of course, on the personal level for me, definitely, and I wouldn't exaggerate if I say that it's a big shock for the entire world, because now we all see and witness how indeed cruel and how bad this authoritarian regime in Russia is. Because prior to that, it was all kind of hidden. Though it's like, on my personal view, it happened not in February. It actually happened a long time ago, pretty much when Putin came into power in the beginning of 2000s. Because we know of invasion of Georgia in 2008, annexation of Crimea in 2014. Also, we know all those spy operations and all those scandals when Russian intelligence assassinate people around the world, like in London and Berlin and in Doha, Dubai, like also interference in US elections. And the world seemed to be okay with that. We say like, oh yeah, I mean, that's really bad, but it's politics. We just keep it aside. But now the world is indeed shocked to see that another round of this aggression against humanity, it happens in Ukraine, when Russia declares, oh yeah, we just pursue our some interests, and yeah, we have the right to do what we do, which is, I mean, it's really abnormal, and again, I'll probably repeat myself in that it's really heartwarming to see that we have a lot of support, and Ukrainians really appreciate the help of Western countries, United States, European Union, which actually, and many other countries that are united against this idea that we can let it go and say like, okay, hey, Russia is still a big country. We're still, afraid of them, and let them do whatever they like with their neighbors.
What's up with President Zelenskyy? Like, I think most people in the U.S., they never heard of him before. And just this past week, he was literally ringing the bell to the U.S. stock market. He was on national financial television. He's been on the cover of Vogue magazine. He's obviously spoke directly to Congress, and he's an individual who obviously, as the leader of Ukraine, was on the international stage, right, to some degree. But given the situation and the conflict here, he has now risen to a level of international prominence that I think many people have been surprised by. What do Ukrainians kind of think about the role that he's taken in all of this?
Yeah, I would say also, like, normally I don't like generalizations, because Ukrainians are also very different, and it's difficult to say like, okay, hey, like all Ukrainians they think the same. No, of course we still, even amid war, we have some people who appreciate his actions, or some of his actions, and so on. But of course, in general, here probably I would generalize. Yes, Ukrainians are very proud of Zelenskyy, and including myself. I wasn't a fan of Zelenskyy when he became a president in 2019, and also for the background, he's a comedian actor, so he's not a professional politician, and never been into politics. But he's a very famous in Ukraine. He was, and that really helped him to become a president, because people in Ukraine they were also disappointed with probably previous governments. But anyway, to your question, indeed he became to some extent a national hero, because he refused to to flee from Kiev, which is just just the best decision ever, I would say. And of course, I praise him for that, for his courage, for his also bravery and all the actions he does. And of course, amid war, I personally I lend all my full support to what he does, and I really admire what he does, and his all efforts to raise awareness, to increase help, to solicit help from other countries. It's really what we need, and what we hope for. And Ukraine is really united for our leader. And if we talk about political leader, of course, Ukrainians, they're very much united in their support to army forces. We donate a lot of money from all over the world. Also, it's really amazing to see, and for me personally, I witnessed it, that humanitarian aid and support have been flowing into Ukraine for those past 6 months. Just millions of tons of aid. And even here in Los Angeles, where I'm based, we don't have a big diaspora of Ukrainians, but we're still very much united in our support to Ukraine, and we do all we can in various ways. And what Zelenskyy does, appealing to global community, it's one of the ways to help our case, and finally stop Russian aggression and push all the occupants out from Ukraine.
Yeah, it is. It's pretty incredible to see how quickly he's been able to get that message out. And obviously, most of the people in Ukraine that I've spoken to that either lived there before, still have family and friends there, or live somewhere abroad, seem to be pretty appreciative of his efforts. Talk to me about kind of the market, the financial market. You have a PhD in applied economics, and chess obviously is something that you're very well known for, but you kind of have this whole other life, and have a ton of kind of traditional education, but also I know a lot of interest. How do you see kind of the macro environment right now? And then maybe more specifically for this audience, a lot of people care about Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies. And do you have any thoughts there? This episode is brought to you by 8 Sleep. Good sleep is a game changer, and the 8 Sleep Pod is the best sleep machine. I sleep on it every single night. A great night of sleep allows you to be healthier, be more rested, and have more energy throughout the day. And on the brand new 8 Sleep Pod 3, you can sleep as cold as 55 degrees Fahrenheit or as hot as 110 degrees Fahrenheit. That's the secret of thermoregulation. Better sleep, better energy. Get yourself an 8 Sleep. You can go to 8sleep.com/pomp today to go ahead and get $150 off your order. 8sleep.com/pomp. Not only do I sleep on it every night, it literally changed my life, and I begged the founders to let me invest in the company. 8sleep.com/pomp. Go get yourself an 8 Sleep Pod and get a better night of sleep.
Yeah, we'll probably also break your question into parts. Of course, especially of the topic of Russian aggression in Ukraine. It's also pretty much obvious, I guess, to the audience that world economy is shaken because of that. And simply because Russia is quite a big country, though not that much large economy. Ukraine is also one of the biggest suppliers of agricultural food, so agricultural markets apparently they're shaken, and we see that the stability of the entire world economy is under a threat. Well, maybe it's a little exaggerated, but definitely we see that. There are huge fluctuations. For example, you can see it on a gas station, right? So gas prices over the past months, they were fluctuating pretty badly, and we've seen that the increase in gas prices were unprecedented in the times. And of course, prices for energy sources, they're one of the biggest drivers of the global economy. And until this war is over, until we stop Putin, it's still going to be shaken. Difficult to get back to the stability because, again, the modern world has changed, and now we see that it became truly more global. Some people, they might think like, hey, it's kind of a regional war that we're really far from it, and why would we care about it? But in fact, we see that there are so many interconnections, so many global companies that operate in different continents, that really the economy became global. And in this sense, we have around 8 billion people, but still we're very much interconnected by any such things. And that's why we see that those shakeups of economy, they're driven by this war. And you see many brands, they exited Russia. Of course, investment environment in Ukraine is really in a poor situation because of the war. So that's why it's really difficult to predict what happened, because the situation still is not stabilized. Going back to your part of cryptocurrency and financial market, also for me, I would also put a disclaimer there that I'm not a big expert. So the way I do have a PhD in economics, it still doesn't make me a big expert in the field. Though I would say that also financial markets, and that's my personal view, they're still very much driven by the real economy. And again, it's really very much related to the first part of question, that with those global shakes in the economy, with disruptions of many supply chains on many goods, we'll see that the restructuring of economies, it would take time. And I really hope that the war will be over and Ukraine will get victory soon. And then we will be talking about new reality, in the sense that in a stable environment, how we going to be building up not only political relationships and those kind of things, but also how to rebuild those supply chains, and how they're going to be reflected for the economy. I would just make just a humble prediction that once we go over those kind of shocks that we see, the economy will be kind of rebuilding pretty quickly. And of course, I'm not talking about Ukraine, but pretty much the entire world. So once the energy prices are stabilized, we can kind of slowly progress to kind of a more stable environment, I would say, in this way. And okay, if we go back to cryptocurrencies, also it's quite a big topic. I would just say that it's, to my point of view, in a way, it's a niche market, and it will be this way for quite some time. And I'm not really sure that it can become more global in terms of presence in financial market.
Yeah, it feels like a lot of folks who are into technology obviously are into Bitcoin cryptocurrencies, but also there's some interesting parts of our conversation today. Russia, Ukraine, obviously lots of people talking about Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies along with other technologies. If you think of the chess world, there's actually been a number of people in the chess world who are very interested in these assets as well. And so I tend to think a lot about how usually a financial asset, I don't know, take real estate as an example, it ends up being somewhat isolated. You're a real estate investor or you're not a real estate investor. It's in your portfolio or it's not. But you don't think about I like real estate and therefore I also like, chess and this and this and this. But in some way, kind of Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies, it does seem to attract a certain type of audience that is receptive to it early, right? And so maybe that's like an early adopter type thing. Maybe it's people who like math and science and technology. There's a lot of different ways you could cut it. But it is fascinating to see how quickly, in 13 years or so, an asset that literally didn't exist now all of a sudden has this global brand that, regardless of the language, when people see that orange B, they know what it is, and it's something I'm fascinated by. I don't think we fully understand yet, kind of how this has happened and where it's going. But it definitely is different than I think anything that you and I have seen in our lifetimes.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that, and I also like your notion that indeed it's kind of bubbles, right? And I think the direct comparison is probably social media, and also what happens in information wise, right? So we really we kind of think that we see the global picture. In fact, that's not really true, because many people indeed they see the part of it depending on their bubble. And as you say, for example, if you're a real estate investor, then you have some expertise in that. But if you're not, then you just have no idea what goes on there. right? So, for example, just if talking about real estate here in California, where I live now for just slightly over than 1 year, I'm amazed to see that the real estate prices they keep on rising. That's really interesting, since many people who are not really experts on that, they say that, hey, it's a bubble. It's not possible to see that prices that they've been rising for more than 20 years, and now, even amid of pandemic, when many people actually they leave California, right, because technologies also allow us to work remotely. Still, we see that real estate prices, for some reason, they keep on rising even more. So that's why, yeah, it's indeed many questions to that. What kind of bubble we're focusing on?
Yeah, it's absolutely fascinating. When I think about you, and you have so many different interests, how do you describe yourself to people? Do you tell people I play chess, I'm a grandmaster? Do you tell them no, I'm into economics? Is it just I have multi kind of faceted interests? Like, how do you think about your own identity?
It's quite combined. I like in the chess world, I like refer to myself as a semi-professional chess player, because obviously when people hear that I'm a grandmaster, they think like, wow, apparently the guy spent all his life in chess, which is not really true. And I'm really thankful to chess that it allows not only focus on the chessboard and chess wise, but also not compromising with your chess career. It allows you to do some other things. And, I've spent a lot of time in education, and of course, doing my PhD, it took me 6 years to accomplish this milestone. So referring to myself, it's well, difficult to say. I would just quote my mother, who likes to say that life it's just multitasking on various levels, and you need to be a good family member. You need to be a good professional in what you do. You need to like your hobbies and so on. So I would say, yeah, I'm very much chess player. Of course, though I don't play chess professionally, and I don't coach professionally. Though still, I'm very much proud of my chess career, and I'm indeed a chess player, and of course, at the same time, I'm an economist, and professionally, that's what I do, mostly economics.
I
Yes,
love it. I love it. I want two recommendations from you. The first is on chess literature. Is there one book or one piece of information that if somebody is like, hey, I want to get more serious about chess, that you would highly suggest they go and read?
also tough question, because I guess as in any other field, that there is no unique advice. There's not something that you say, hey, like just read one book and you will become an expert. Such book doesn't exist. But though for the beginners, those who just began playing chess, or who played just a little, I normally like suggesting a book by Jose Raul Capablanca, who is who used to be a world champion. As far as I remember, third world champion. So he wrote a book which is called like I'm trying to recall the name, but it's pretty much the book for beginners. It's called like self-taught manual for chess players. And why I like it, because it really has different steps how you understand the game. So let's say if you're a beginner, you can just open the book on the first pages, and it explains how pieces, how they move. Then later parts of the book, they explain very well the basic concepts. What means center in chess, how to develop pieces, what plans are more effective than the others. But of course, this is the book for the beginners. For people who are more or less advanced players, the approach would be completely different. And to that, I would say general suggestion is just to read literature as much as you can. I mean, chess literature, and of course play the game, because that's ultimately what drives people to like the game. Not only study it, but also play and enjoy it. Because after all, chess is a game. It's not only science, not only way to, or like let's say way to self-improve. It's also a game that you enjoy.
That's awesome. And then the second piece of recommendation, if you will, if people want to learn more about what's going on in Ukraine, is there one place that you would send them to kind of learn more, so that it's not just from the American media or international media? Like, is there a source that you go to check?
That's actually excellent question, and I myself, I'm maybe lucky in this sense because I have access to various information. Of course, I do read and follow closely Ukrainian sources. I read like official statements, journalists, as well as since I know Russian, I've been following Russian news for many years, and I know Russian propaganda, and I've been witnessing how different the reality is. And you can imagine that, being in Ukraine and seeing like how Ukraine portrayed some occasions or some things that happen, seeing like what Western media say about it, and seeing how Russian propaganda portrays it, then you're amazed. Wow, like it's just complete difference. You see, like, for example, again, you have like a white pawn right on the chessboard, and you know that it is a white pawn. But then you see that the perspective of how people see this white pawn, it's very different. And that's why it's for me personally, it's really how to say, shocking to see indeed how this propaganda in Russia, how effective it is. Because once you're told that this white pawn is a black queen, and everybody tells it to you from every TV channel you switch, then you begin believing it, and then you just don't have any critical thinking. So my general advice would be just not to focus on one source, but to see various sources. And frankly, I've been seeing it here in the US as well, that people, they just focus on like, hey, we're watching, let's say, Fox News, or we are watching CNN. But my approach and my suggestion would be, no, you guys better watch both of them. Then you watch other experts. Then you watch something else. Then definitely you need to listen to people who are producing those news. So let's put it this way. So to hear what they say and what they think. And ultimately, you just make your decision on your own, who you believe in, what makes more sense to you, and so on. That's actually how you improve in chess. Because again, if we switch back to the chess topic, you can read one book and it will tell you that, okay, this is the good opening. Then you open another book and it will tell you like, oh, that's a complete nonsense. Then once you turn on your chess engine, it will say completely different story. But ultimately, what makes you a professional, what makes you to understand things, it's your critical thinking, what you believe in, and what you see when you look at the board. In terms of how to perceive what happens in Ukraine, definitely my suggestion would be to not limit yourself to one source, and just check as much as possible. If you have access to international media, if you know other languages, that's really helpful. So you just check what people say. Also be very critical to that. That's also very important, because we see that, and I've been facing it a lot, that some people they really trust whatever they're told. And of course, it's been the case for all the times of history, I guess, that the lies can be everywhere. Mm-hmm. It doesn't mean you need to trust whatever the first source you hear. Definitely be very critical, because you would be amazed when you see Russian propaganda. You see the world completely different, and you're like, wow. I mean, maybe that makes sense, or maybe it doesn't. Then you begin also questioning yourself, and that's why I'm saying that limiting yourself to one source, it's quite dangerous, because then you might begin questioning some things, like like a white pawn, right? You can say like, well, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe indeed it's not a white pawn, it's something else, or something like that. So yeah, that's again, it's a very general advice, but I think it's very much needed. So just remember that you shouldn't limit yourself to one source.
I love that that's the way you answer the question, because I always say that there's a critical thinking crisis underway globally. and the ability to consume lots of information from different sources and then kind of synthesize it and think through it is a important skill, and probably one that we should develop much better in young people around the world. I've really enjoyed speaking with you today, and I think you're so fascinating in terms of all of your different interests and the level of success that you've achieved. If people want to follow up with you, or they want to ask further questions or follow your chess career as it continues, where should we send them? Is Twitter, or is there some other place that you think is best to send people?
Twitter is completely fine. Also, I would suggest checking my the website campaign, which is fightforchess.com. Though it's not very active apparently after the elections, but still there is a lot of information on myself, on the team that I managed to build up in just a few months of this campaign, and I'm extremely proud and humbled to see so many experts being by my side, because we share the democratic values and everything. So yeah, Twitter is perfectly fine, although I'm more active on Facebook, and where you can also find me by my first and last name. I also prefer, and that's what I do in chess as well. I prefer to use my real name, not like some as in chess we have a joke, like it's like you play some pepperoni cheese or something, some nonsense, referring to that you play a nickname instead of playing a real guy. So yeah, Facebook, Twitter, and again, fightforchess.com. Those are perfect sources to reach out to me.
I love it. Chess and in the Bitcoin world, plenty of pseudonymous names that make you laugh is one definite similarity. Awesome. Well, listen, thank you so much for your time today. I really enjoyed it, and I think people will get an absolute a lot of learning and also a lot of interest kind of out of your experience and our conversation today. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.